Good afternoon. It is Friday, November 6th, and today I want to talk about the Federal Reserve. Lately, the Fed has been in the news a lot. I believe yesterday they came out and said that they weren't going to increase interest rates anytime in the near future. And there have also been calls for a full audit of the Federal Reserve among the American people and certain members of Congress. So I just want to talk about it today and bring up some topics about money that many of you may never have even considered before. So first of all, what is the Federal Reserve? Well, the Federal Reserve is a quasi-private central bank. I say quasi-private because its chairman is still appointed by the President of the United States, so it does have a public nature to it. But it is not an institution, a direct institution of the federal government. It's a bank with various members, and it controls our money supply. It literally prints our money. See, I have $5 bill here. You'll see, try to position it right, it says Federal Reserve Note. Okay, so our currency essentially is printed by a quasi-private bank outside of the authority of, outside of Congress and outside of the federal government. So they print our money. Now, in the days before the Federal Reserve, remember the Federal Reserve was only founded in 1913, we didn't have a central bank. And in fact, we were on the gold standard. A dollar back then represented 1/20th of an ounce of gold. So an ounce of gold was $20 for most of our history. And you could redeem your dollar for gold at any time. It resulted in a very stable currency. And in fact, between the 1830s, which was when Jackson got rid of the second Bank of the United States, between the 1830s and 1913, the value of the dollar actually increased in value by 10%. So what an item that cost $1 in 1836 cost 90 cents in 1913. That's a stable currency. You don't see a whole lot of fluctuations there. If you saved money all throughout your life, that money was not devalued by the time you were older. It was a stable currency based on gold, based on sound money. Then in 1913, we get the Federal Reserve, and we're still on somewhat of a gold standard, although it's not a perfect gold standard. But the Federal Reserve had a complete monopoly over our money supply, and that led to inflation. And between 1913 and 1929, the dollar lost 45% of its value. Now keep in mind, for the 100 years prior to that, the dollar gained in value. Now it was only 10%, but it still gained in value. All of a sudden, after the Fed is founded, within a decade and a half, the dollar loses 45% of its value. Okay? What's happened since 1913? That was only 15 years. Since 1913, between 1913 and 2008, the dollar has lost 95% of its value. 95%. That is huge. Okay, and it wasn't just during the 70s. The dollar since 2000, which wasn't even that long ago, the dollar since 2000 has lost 20% of its value. All right, so we've lived in a very inflationary century. So what does that mean? If you are an older American and you had been saving all your life, you had been saving dollars, essentially those dollars, what once constituted your savings and your wealth is now devalued by, if you've lived that long, 95% or 50%, depending on how old you are. This is called the inflation tax. Okay, it's a hidden tax on Americans because every time the Federal Reserve prints a dollar or digitally adds a zero at the end of someone's account, in essence creating money out of thin air. Every time the Fed creates money out of thin air, that devalues the dollar in your pocket. Okay, so it's a hidden tax. It's no different than the income tax and the sales tax. We just don't see it. It's not as obvious, but it still occurs. It still happens. Now, who gets that money that the Fed prints? We don't know. That's the thing. The Fed can operate in total secrecy. Who knows how many billions of dollars they've given to a various bank or a corporation like Goldman Sachs. We don't know because they don't have to tell anybody. So they just print money, create money out of thin air, hand it out to their financial buddies, to various banks, to various corporations without any sort of audit. And by doing that, they devalue our currency. So let me sum this up again. Inflation is a tax on poor and middle-class Americans, all Americans. A tax whose proceeds goes to banks and corporations. With no audit, we're not allowed to know who receives the money and how much money they receive. That is the Federal Reserve. It's a criminal organization. Let's just call it what it is. It's criminal. This is paper. 100 years ago, if you went to an American and told them that our currency today would be based on nothing, that would be just worthless paper, I mean, they would be mortified. I mean, humans have used gold as currency for thousands of years. Thousands of years. The Roman coins that were in gold, those are still worth something because it's gold. It has intrinsic value. This is paper. Okay? In 5 years, this isn't going to be worth even close to what it was today. In 100 years, this won't be worth anything. I guarantee you, this will be worthless, except maybe as a collector's item, as a historical artifact. Okay, but it won't have any value because it's paper. Look at it. It's worthless. We don't need it. This is gold right here. This is 1/4 of an ounce, which means 100 years ago, this was worth that $5 bill. That $5 bill, I could have, instead of ripping it up, I could have taken it to my bank and gotten a nice 1/4 ounce gold coin. Because it was real money. It was worth something, again, something real, something tangible. Gold, of course, today is at approximately $1,100 an ounce. It was $270 an ounce in 2000. It was $35 an ounce in 1970. It was $20 an ounce prior to 1933. So the price of gold keeps going up. The dollar keeps going down. Okay, what we're going to see is a currency crisis. So my best advice to you, get out of the dollar. Stop trusting this bank that makes paper notes that are worth nothing, that will be worthless in a few decades, probably even sooner than that. And get something real, get something tangible to protect your savings against inflation, because we're going to see a whole lot more inflation in the future. This 95% drop that we've seen since 1913 is nothing compared to the currency crisis we will eventually see. Will it be a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? I don't know, but it's going to happen. It has to happen, because that currency right there is based on nothing except for the good faith and credit of the United States, which I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but has dwindled considerably in the last few months. So anyway, that's my little tidbit on that. I want to talk more about the Federal Reserve in another video blog. I want to lay out very clearly and specifically how the Federal Reserve caused the financial collapse of 2008, how it caused the housing bubble, how its artificially low interest rates creates bubbles, creates the boom bust cycle, and so on. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. A lot of you probably already know this already. If you do, share it with your friends. Let them hear it, and hopefully we'll spread the word. And I'll see you guys next time.